everyone, welcome to another episode of the Self-Detective Club. This week we're going to be immersing ourselves in nurturing spaces, safe spaces, and I'm chuffed to say that Violet and Linda have come to the fore to help us unpick this topic. Okay, what would be your own definition of nurturing? What does the word conjure up for you?
Well, being a person-centered counsellor, right away I went to Carl Rogers' definition, of the plant. What are the conditions the plant needs in order to thrive and grow? And that would be, to be in good soil, being watered, sunlight, etc., etc. And so it's the similar situation for myself. And then I go into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very basic things I need before I can even begin to thrive. I need water, I need food, I need shelter, and I need clothes before I can even start to think about, growing and thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Violet.
I kind of went through the same kind of thought process about a child, an animal, a plant, and then but then went a little bit deeper and thought about it stands for being cared for, which I guess all those things do, being acknowledged, being seen, being encouraged, believed in, praised, accepted, feeling important. All those were the words that I kind of came up with when I thought about what it felt like to be nurtured.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It feels lovely to be able to talk this way because I love the word nurture and I love to hear your ideas of kind of what it is. Yeah, it feels really nice. Thank you. Next question is then, in your opinion, what ingredients make for a safe, nurturing environment? Like, what do you need? Can we put more flesh on the bone? You yourselves, I know that you've sort of spoken in general terms about, the sort of theories of nurture and that, but what do you need for yourselves?
I think I kind of went down the counsellor's route on this one, thinking what I provide in the counselling room and what I would like if I walked into a room where I didn't feel familiar with people, felt a stranger almost, and I felt like I would want good eye contact. I would want a smile or a nod. I would like a calm atmosphere, a feeling of warmness. And yeah, all those kind of feel-good factors of being in a space where you're not familiar with. That was kind of where my head went.
All the above, and also to feel safe and understood. And that sort of validation that comes from that I'm an individual and we might have differing views, but we can negotiate, we can understand each other. But yeah, I think it's that acceptance, isn't it? Regardless if we're different, we can still accept each other.
Well, can I pick up on one word that you said, Linda, which was safe, sort of feeling safe? How do we know when we feel safe? Like, it might be in some ways easier to know when we're not, but how do we know when we are?
I think there's a bit of instinct involved in there as well. You're right, I definitely know when I feel unsafe. I wonder, is it the absence of those things that I feel safe? And it's all that you say, Violet, it's that the warmth and acceptance, but that can be false. That can be faked, isn't it? I'm trying to think of an instance, the last instance where I went into a situation where I feel safe within my family. That's always feel safe because I know there's familiarity that I know, and I feel safe in that they can speak to me honestly, and I can speak honestly to them. So I think there's something about familiarity as well leads to that safety I don't immediately go into situations and feel safe. I think there has to be a bit of a familiarity from that.
And devilishly, I've got a part of my brain that's trying to think of some quote or phrase that isn't familiarity breeds contempt. But it's great to hear you talk about that, because I think a lot of people will not have the same experience with families, that they will not feel necessarily safe with them, or they have to be quite careful. So it's great. So it makes me wonder, I wonder what's going on with your family, the way you get to feel like really safe in it. Is that like based on some good work that's been put in to make this happen, or is it just happened by chance that you are blessed with a nice family?
Oh no, I understand that isn't the case for every family. It's definitely something that I think probably you have to work at, and it's how you manage the ruptures in the family as well. When we have disagreements, how we manage them, that we're allowed to make mistakes, we're allowed to be forgiven for them and accepted back in. And I think it's building and all that we will disagree from time to time, we will have our arguments, but it's how we repair them that gives us all confidence to trust each other.
Yeah, kind of making a note of these. Okay to make mistakes, okay to disagree, and if you've got the confidence to repair anything that's kind of going awry. And then also, Violet, I'm trying to remember some of your stuff about going into a space for the first time and hearing kindly voices, good eye contact. Is this where we're at? Is this all helping to create nice sort of environments that feel good to be in? And I kind of wonder what that's doing to our bodies as well, like our nervous system. Is it like is this one way of knowing because we're very relaxed, possibly, or we're feeling playful, or we can be more authentic?
Definitely. I think when you're with family who you can trust and you feel safe with, or friends, immediately you just have that sense of feeling relaxed and accepted. You can be you can be genuine. When that's not there is that nervousness and apprehension and on guard, all those things that you feel when you're not feeling safe, fight or flight, you want to just get out of there. And that can, when you were saying there about certain families don't have that.
So if there are people that you can't trust, does that then diminish, does that stop the nurture from happening? And are we talking now about we've moved into a different environment? It might not be hostile, because I was kind of puzzling whether there's such a thing as a neutral space. Does neutrality exist within kind of this continuum of hostility through to safety, through to nurture?
Well, there is kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for, spectrum, where you can be on it. You don't necessarily have to feel completely safe, but you don't feel like it's hostile or unsafe. It's just, you can be sort of okay, but a bit wary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Linda, I don't know if you want to add to this, like this idea of I don't know, like you're saying that families nurturing. What happens in areas where things are uncertain? Can you still kind of grab little pockets of nurture within spaces which aren't entirely kind of reliable?
And I think when you were saying that, Valley, although it's my immediate family I feel safe with, extended family maybe less safe with. There are people I'm not as safe with, but I can have that neutrality and still want to have the connection with them and allow them to be who they need to be in that moment while looking after myself too. So yeah, that goes from maybe a safety, nurturing to more a neutral state. Well, that's going on, yeah. So it's going into something about being able to self-nurture as well. The space might not be nurturing, but I can nurture myself within that, with whatever's going on in that space.
And is it nosy to ask how are you doing it?
How am I doing that? Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's, without getting into a lot of detail, the thing going on in my life with people I'm not happy with, but I can recognise they're going through a difficult time at the moment, and I think while they work through what's going on for them, there's a feeling of having to draw back a bit. And be a bit more of an onlooker with them. You know, be support, continue to be nurturing as much as I can, but ultimately, it's their situation to resolve. That I can offer support, can be present, be supportive, but have to allow them to work through what they're going through at the moment. Well, sort of maybe retaining a bit of a distance while they do that. And recognise they have a tendency maybe to be a bit volatile at the moment. So there's a need to have a little bit space from at the moment. And I think that's something called boundaries as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and being protective, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you two are counsellors, and I'm guessing that one of the big part of counselling is creating a nurturing, safe space for clients. Can you then take that and apply that to your own lives because you know how to do it? Is that like one of the perks of the job, that you can go, this works, let's replicate it with friends and family and strangers?
I always go back to the core conditions, and I don't think that's who you are now. It's just part of who you are. But I know with my own children, when they've got situations and, you know, I'm talking to them, say, stop being a counsellor, Mum. Stop talking to me like that. So yeah, I get what you're saying, Violet. Sometimes it does. But it's judging the situation when it's helpful, and sometimes it's just not. Especially with intimate relationships, they don't want to be counselled.
Sometimes you don't want to counsel people.
No.
Sometimes you just want a day off.
No, but I'm not suggesting that. I'm thinking more taking the jewels of what you know and then applying them to your own lives in order to max out with the idea of a nurture. You're talking about the core conditions, and we will talk about those in another podcast. But I mean, you know, this idea of being authentic, of having unconditional positive regard, of being empathic, can any of those be used to enhance your everyday nurture?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. There has been times where I've kind of took a different approach with someone who can be a bit hostile, and you think you get a better response. Kind of see things differently, and I'm thinking of like certain friends or members of the family that you think, they're all the type that always want an argument, or they're always right about something, or it's tempting not to be, but I have used that approach sometimes I'm thinking of a certain person.
Okay.
And it has been beneficial to the friendship, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So just to ask, how conscious are you of the idea of nurture? Like, is it kind of like something ticking along the background for you, or does it sometimes just get lost in the bustle of everyday life? Like, you were talking about Carl Rogers and this idea of person-centeredness, and he was sort of saying that given the right conditions, anyone will thrive, and you know that as a concept. So do you kind of live your life by that idea of here's an opportunity to thrive, or here's an opportunity to thrive, this is not an opportunity to thrive, so I will protect myself, but then I will wait and then thrive again? I'm just curious to know how ideas around it permeate your day-to-day life.
Recently, it has been quite relevant in my own life because we've had quite a bit of illness in the family, and I've been nurturing other people And I was really happy and grateful that I was able to do that. But what happened was, as I went about months later nurturing them, I became quite stressed and I wasn't nurturing myself. And I'd lost, and I was so focused on making sure that they were well. It took somebody to say to me, I don't think you're very well right now. And I needed, and that hit quite hard actually, because I was so focused on being nurturing other people, and I needed to recognize that I was stressed, that it was having an effect on me, and I needed to do self-nurturing for myself, because if I don't look after myself, then I won't have that ability to carry on, nurturing other people as well.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I'm picking up from what you've just said is that you had the ability to have the awareness that from someone else giving you that gift. You might not have had it yourself at that moment, but you had it indirectly through clocking someone else saying that and then going, oh God, yeah. So I suppose it might have been quite easy to go, oh, just, no, this is what I do.
Oh yeah, I was dismissed. And now after the event, I can see the signs. It was quite obvious when they were pointing out to me. But if I'd gone on the way I was, I would have become quite resentful because I was running on empty. And it was starting to become a chore. And that was unfair to the people I was helping, but I was being unfair to myself too. And I'm grateful this friend pointed out to me, I don't think you're quite well now. You need to take time out. And how nurturing of her to tell me I was over nurturing and needed to look after myself.
So this sounds nice, isn't it? If we're surrounded by nurturing people, not only hopefully will they be nurturing themselves, but they'll be nurturing their friends, they'll be nurturing us. And it'll be a nice symbiotic relationship. Violet, how conscious are you of being in a nurturing space? As a sort of as opposed to it just happening randomly.
Thinking about this, and I was thinking, when you're with a group of people who nurture you in terms of just that they're just there being their real selves and being a real friend or a real family member, and it can just be the small things. Something I get from my kids is quite often is a hug, just a random hug for no reason, and that is just a huge thing. It's kind of that instinct thing that you were talking about, Linda. They kind of look at you and think, she needs a hug. So am I conscious of it? I probably am, because I think when I'm feeling I need nurture, I'm in need of something here. I need a hug. I need something just to say that I'm cared for.
Yeah, and that's interesting you say that, Violet, because I'm not a huggy person, I'm not a tactile person, and if I'm going to be nurtured, that's not what I need. Actually, I'm more verbal. I like you to recognise and say something nice to me. I like the way you did that. So hug. I get that works for you, and that's lovely. And then I recognise I have a daughter who noticed you don't hug mum, and she needed hugging to feel nurtured. So I've had to overcome that. And it felt very awkward at first. And so we do that, and she'll say, no, Mum, 3 minutes. But what is it we have to stand for? 3 minutes a day and hug each other. Now, being honest, I don't always feel 100% comfortable with that, but it works for her. So I go over myself, and over time, okay, I'm enjoying it a bit more. I become more familiar with it, and it doesn't breed contempt. But no, I become more familiar with it, and it's okay. So that's interesting. Hugging for you from family is nurturing, not necessarily for me, but a more verbal recognition of something. Words work more for me.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Another question, if I may: how much agency do you have to control your environment? Possibly you've already gone some way to answer this, but it seems like there's a lot of things that you can do to control your environment. But is there any more that we can delve into around this?
It makes me think of when you're in the counselling room with people and they may talk about someone in their lives that is not good for them, that isn't nurturing, and it's almost like they're trying to work out if they need that person in their life and or need permission to not have them in their life. And I guess, is that what we do? Do we take those people out of your life that don't make you feel safe, don't support you in the right way? It's not easy.
I'm just thinking as well, agency over here. Yeah, for the most part, don't have much control over life. Life's going to life. Life is going to be very life, and it has been for me for the past while. But what it does is test my resilience as well. And if we had a life where nothing ever happened, how would we know we're resilient? And so that's what that has done. It's tested my resilience. But thankfully, I've got nurturing friends around me who are able to point out and say, no, your resilience is getting low now. You need to do something about that. So while I can't control a lot of what's going on now, I can control how I feel, how I think, and how I behave, and work on my resilience, which I did. So I was able to go back in and manage the bits of my environment that I can't. The most part I can, it's out if I can do, but I try to focus on the bits of my environment that I can manage. And I can do that with nurturing, the self-nurturing of myself, to make sure I have got the resilience to deal with whatever comes along.
Great, yeah. Thank you both for sharing. So when we were doing the Hostile Environments podcast, we kind of broke things down into 4 dimensions, sort of the internal space, the inner world that we have, the intrapersonal, and then looked at the interpersonal with other people, and then we looked at sort of the physical world and the cultural world. And I wonder if we can do the same thing for this nurturing conversation, which is to go through each one in turn and just see what comes up. Starting with the internal world, how kindly is your internal world? Is this okay to ask? Like, do you have kindly dialogues with yourself? Do you soothe your body? Do you soothe your brain? Do you soothe?
I don't know if this comes with age as well, because I always, for a good part of my life, always had this very critical voice in my head, that I was never, wasn't achieving enough, wasn't successful enough, and so on, so on. And I thought, I've never needed a bully. I've got the one that sits in my head and tells me I'm not achieving whatever. And I think as I entered into my 60s, I get tired of bullying myself. I get tired of the critic, and I get tired of being fearful. I mean, doing this is outside my comfort zone, but you know what? I'm so tired of being frightened because I'm missing opportunities because this fear, this critic in my head's holding me back. So I'm quite nervous. I'll own that I'm quite nervous about this, but I'm determined to step outside it. And what I've found is the fear, because I can spiral very easily. The fear in my head is never, ever, not once been as bad as how I thought it was going to be in my head. So I have that evidence, so I keep pushing myself forward to that.
If I'm hearing you right, you've got to an age where you've managed to tame that critical.
And I thought, and I just at some point thought, what if I stopped being critical in my head and started being like my own cheerleader? Say, come on, Linda, I know you're anxious, I know you're nervous, but give it a go. You'll be fine. Do the best you can. And just that switch. Now, it doesn't come easily because it's my default position to be nervous, to be anxious, and to be critical. But it is starting to chip away at that. There's starting to become a balance. That more, the cheerleader's talking to me more than the bully, than the critical voice. And that's so calming. It's that inner child stuff. As I'm talking to that inner child and saying, I know you're frightened, I know you're scared, but look at me, I'm an adult now. I'll look after both of us. Maybe not always as successfully as much because there's the inner critic again coming back in. But I think a lot of this comes with age as well. I'm just tired of being frightened. And I'm more conscious that I've got more years behind me than in front of me now. So why am I wasting that time listening to these critical thoughts? It's stopping me from other opportunities.
Great, thanks for sharing. Yeah. Violet, where are you with your internal world and nurture?
Similar to Linda. Yeah. Everything you were saying there, I was thinking, I love the cheerleader. I'm going to try and focus on my inner cheerleader. Yeah, I'm so the same. Yeah, just negative talk to myself. Yeah, and then I find myself occasionally going, God, you were good. And then you think, oh, who are you to say that? You can question that. Yeah, it's. But like you say, you get older, and you hear a lot of older people lose their inhibitions about they don't care anymore. They just go for it, and if they fail, they fail.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's allowing yourself to make mistakes. It's okay if I'm making mistakes. I can learn from it, and I can adapt to change my behaviour. So I'm more forgiving of myself. But I think there's something, this taps in as well, this nurturing into what my expectations of myself have always been. They've been completely unrealistic. It's almost like self-sabotage that I've carried all my life. So I'm working on those expectations, not to have them. Just let it be what it's going to be. As I say, I talk the talk, I don't always walk the walk. That's the ideal. But now it's in my head. I try to practice that more than beating myself up over everything that I do.
Good. Thank you both. The next realm, the interpersonal, the relationships. How conscious are you of being around people who are nurturing, and how can you mitigate circumstances when that ain't gonna happen?
I think it goes back to that kind of making choices to have certain people in your life. I think as you get older again, you kind of think you choose who you want to be around a lot more. And that just makes life easier. And why not? Why would you want to be around people that don't make you feel good about yourself, or you get a good vibe from, or whatever it might be? You don't have to, basically, do you? You don't have to be.
And do you think this is something that comes with age? Like when you're younger, you might not have the capacity to really know the landscape of the world and what is hostile and what's not. But as you get older, you kind of hopefully take your experience with you and go, nah, I know that's not good, but there's every chance this will be good.
I think when I was younger, it was more about quality than quantity. And now you're right, Valerie, it's realising you have a choice who you invite into like your inner sanctum kind of thing to keep your peace of mind. And I think I'm conscious of doing that more, of who I want to let in my life now. I can still have relationships with people, but it's who I let into the sort of inner sanctum, the closer circle.
I was just thinking of something. We talk about family and friends, and yet there's this other sphere, these strangers that just kind of pop up randomly, and could be on a bus with us, or could just be sharing a space. And I find that in the modern world, it's been 2025, there's not a lot of chance to have any kind of amazingly nurturing moments with random strangers, because they always seem to be focused on getting from A to B or on their tech or something. And yet when I think of little small moments that I've had with individuals that I've never met before, I've had some of the most amazing moments that have stayed with me for absolutely years. And I just wonder whether or not there's these missed opportunities because you get into groups where you kind of, everything's pretty mapped out already. You know, you're going to go here, you're going to meet people that you absolutely know already, and you're hopefully going to avoid them because you know them already. But what about this middle ground? Or have we not got time for the middle ground, because more often than not it'll just be disappointing. It'll just be people that probably aren't that aware of themselves, and probably not much scope for nurture.
I think you don't want to shut yourself off to everything, do you? Because, you know, there's so many people in the world that you've never met or had any connection with. Yet in our world as counsellors, that often happens. And you find yourself thinking, wow, I've built this really good connection with someone. And you never knew them until they walked in that door. So if you think about all the other people in the world, you wouldn't want to shut yourself off from that completely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think as well, Violet, the world's become more automated as well. There's less and less chance for human interaction, isn't there? I mean, my children think I'm old-fashioned because I prefer to speak to people on the phone. You just don't do that, do you? It's a text and things like that. Yeah, I'm still somebody who will, and I embarrass my children because we go into shops, I'll talk to the person, you know. I do like to have a joke and a laugh with them. But I think that's becoming, yeah, there's less opportunities now. I never really thought about that. Because we are becoming more and more times more shut off, aren't we? More technology's taking over our lives and making those interactions even less.
Yeah. And it feels a little bit, but for me, that I like playful people. That's my nurture, just like, because that tells me that they're open, they're up for a laugh, they're up for connections and stuff. And yet, how often are people like instantly playful? You know, like if we're all guarded because we want to protect ourselves, there's quite a chance that we're going to be quite straight-laced with people rather than kind of playful from the off. So I think for myself, I discount a lot of experiences with people that could be very nurturing because they ain't being playful from the off, or they're not doing much for my playfulness. It's looking at me as if, come on, act your age. I don't want to act my age. And maybe this goes into cultures, you know, like oppressive cultures, nurturing cultures. Like there are certain spaces, there are certain shops, there are certain restaurants, pubs that for me are much more nurturing than others. And yet I haven't really taken the time to think, what actually is it then? What is the culture? Because most places don't tend to have the culture like written on the wall, do they? This is our culture, this is what we aspire to. So it just kind of seems to happen mostly organically, naturally, based on, I guess, from whichever individuals are kind of creating it. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, other than I think values and beliefs are also important with this. And that maybe hopefully we gravitate to places that share our own ideas of society, of what makes for a nurturing society. Don't know, might have talked myself into utter confusion here, but if anyone has found a thread in what I've said, please do continue it.
I'm going back to my familiarity again. I was at a Nick Cave concert. I'm a big fan of Nick Cave, and I was there and immediately felt an affinity for all the people there and got talking to the people there, because I think if you have a like for a certain musician, they kind of have certain values and thinking and things like that. So we were talking, and yeah, I found it quite easy. Immediately I felt comfortable with the people there, and we were talking about it. So it was a little bit of familiarity that helped make that connection. And I knew it was a temporary connection, and that was fine. But we were able to be playful, able to laugh, and able to talk in that little space and time, and it was fine to leave it there and then go on with life. But it was so satisfying and enjoying knowing, but it was just for that short time. and I could go on with my life.
Yeah, because that kind of fits in with the stranger thing. But you're almost saying there's a real likelihood that if you like the same music as me, you're going to be a nice person, or you're going to be my kind of person. You're going to be in my tribe.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
And it also makes me think, there's things like music, isn't there? Books, films, TV. Is this all adding potentially to the mix of having nurture, like of being nurtured?
If you go to the cinema and you really love a film everybody's piling out and you can't help but say to the person, wasn't that great? And you feel like you've made a connection with someone because they've witnessed something exactly like you were saying, Linda. You've all witnessed something that you've all loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is reminding me that my mum once said that she came out of a film way back in the 60s. It was called Morgan, A Suitable Case for Treatment, and it had such a profound impact on all the people that watched it that people came out and were climbing lampposts and just kind of going doolally. I know that's like an old expression, but kind of like... And I went to see a film once that was a teen angst film called Suburbia, and everyone came out so pumped up. It was amazing, like a real shared experience thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what that meant to say as well. Going to that particular experience, I had an expectation of how it was going to be because we all love this singer and it's one of the best gigs that I've ever been to. But it was nurturing my soul by being there. Just the music, the feelings that come from the music, and so that was part of me nurturing my soul and making connections with all thousands of people there, and that's an amazing experience. We're all there. In a sense, we're all there to nurture that part of our soul that is music and enjoyment of that.
I love that. And I'm guessing that it can't really work without the audience. Like if it was just you and Nick Cave, then there wouldn't have been such a thing. I'm not saying I'm right here, I'm just guessing, but there was something spiritual, meaningful, more than the sum of the parts going on.
Because there's something amazing about being in that big space and you're all there for the same thing because you enjoy the same thing and you're all connecting at the same moments. That's quite a spiritual experience, But it was for me. I absolutely enjoyed it.
It goes for the same, when we're saying going to the cinema, you're all going to watch that film for a reason. You've all got an interest, similar interest.
Yeah.
So it connects you in that way, maybe.
Like-mindedness is such an important thing. But then, I don't know, it just sounds a bit odd when we're saying that, because then it feels like there's an othering going on that I might be part of that doesn't feel so good, like I'm not giving people a chance. But then, crikey, I've reached half a century and I think I know pretty much by now who's in my tribe and who's not. Yeah.
I suppose, people who have religion and go to church and that sense of community all coming together because they believe in this one God, they have that connection in some way. Because I was thinking myself when you first started talking about it, I was thinking, well, what is my culture? Where do I belong? Who are my tribe? I'm not sure. Don't know if I have one.
Can we bring you back in 6 months' time with that question? Find out what the journey to find Violet's tribe would entail. But no, I mean, as we're talking about this, have you got any thoughts, like straight away, in terms of connectivity, like shared stuff?
I know you're talking about values and, morals or whatever. Do we gravitate towards that? Do we go towards the same people who have the same kind of values? I know there's a lot of people that I know that do, but there's a lot of people who don't either.
What about you? I'm more interested in you. What do you gravitate? Well, I am being nosy, but I don't need to be super nosy. But I mean, do you think that to have the same values is absolutely essential for you to get on with someone, or can you be quite challenged?
That's interesting, because that is what I struggle with sometimes, you know, and I find myself becoming quite argumentative, a kind of defensive of my values, and it's difficult to accept someone who doesn't have the same kind of values as you have sometimes.
As you're saying that, I can see your face, or like, as if it's naughty to say, or just like.
I just struggle with people who have certain prejudice and, you know, judgments against people, and I can't help but say it now. I don't think I used to be that person a long time ago. Maybe I just wasn't aware of it as I am now, and I just think, not sitting right with me.
I think that you've got certain values are non-negotiable. If people are obviously prejudiced or bigoted, they're just non-negotiable. But I remind myself, not everybody has the same values as me, and that's fine. There's just some that I know I can't thrive in this relationship while you have those opinions. That's not going to work. And that's where the choice comes in at this age, doesn't it? I don't have to be in a relationship with you. But no, I don't think I could thrive in a relationship like that. Again, it's back to those conditions. What would the conditions have to be? And the certain values are just non-negotiable.
Yeah. Great. So, and the fourth and last dimension is the physical world. How important is certain aspects of the physical world to us? You know, like cities, countryside, forests, water, weather.
Well, that's what happened to me when I realised how stressed I was. I took myself away to a place that I'd been for over 40 years, and it was the beach and it was the forest. And that's immediately where I wanted to go, in nature. And I physically, mentally, and emotionally felt better for it. And it was just that million mile a minute thinking, just it evaporated, and I could be in the moment, just looking at beautiful scenery. I actually at one point thought, what was that noise? It was birds singing. I'd forgotten to, all my senses had shut down. That's how shut down I was. And I just was able to sit in that moment and appreciate being on a beautiful beach, listening to the waves and things, and how calming that was. So I realized how important that is for me to keep building on my resilience, so that I, that self-nurture starts here, so that I can go on to nurture where I need to nurture. And that's definitely going to be part of my life going forward. It's necessary. I feel it's necessary. Yeah.
Thank you. Violet, do you have similar things? Do you have places, locations, landmarks that...
I think being outside is hugely important for me. I can just go out the back of where I live and walk in the green, and instantly I just feel good, and just being by yourself as well. Sometimes you just need that, don't you? Just to be mindful of where you are at that moment, and just connecting with nature, like you say. Yeah. And holidays. I mean, just going to somewhere new, different, seeing new things, listening to the sea. I love the sea.
And yeah, Barrett, and you remind me, I do need some time on my own from time to time. And I was going to say to do nothing, but I'm not. I'm reflecting, I'm relaxing, I'm recharging. I'm actually doing quite a lot, but that's very necessary as well, just to just be, just be still.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for all of the sharing. If it's not too weird to ask, how nurturing or otherwise has this time been on the Self-Detective Club? I know that you, Linda, you said that you, oh, was it? I don't want to put words into your mouth, but were you a little apprehensive? We're kind of coming to the end of this time now, and I just wondered whether how it had been.
Well, my instincts tell me I've enjoyed it. And that's the thing that I was saying. It's always worse in my head than it's actually, in reality going to be. So I've enjoyed it. I have to say, I'm not thrilled. I'm racing back in my head at some of the things I said. So I'm not thrilled, but that's still critic shouting in my ear. Yeah. But no, I've enjoyed it. Simon, thank you for asking me.
No, that's great. I hope it's not a loaded question. And Violet, do you have an answer as well as to whether I don't know how you rate nurturing spaces, but how has this been?
I feel this has been a really nurturing space, definitely, and it's nice to talk about something quite positive. I know there's kind of, when you're not feeling nurtured as well. But that's important, isn't it, to know that? And it kind of just makes you think more about being out there, being with people, being in places, and what your needs are. And I think, being with you guys is very nurturing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You're like-minded people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You are part of my little tribe.
This is our tribe.
That's nice. And that's kind of what we aspire to with the Self-Detective Club, so great. Long may it continue. This has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time, taking the trouble.
It's been great. Thank you.
So I've enjoyed it, yeah, as I say, yeah.
Cool. Take care. Till next time.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.